So let's talk football in the state of Texas. After this past wild weekend of college football where Texas almost pulled off the upset over Alabama, and then Texas A&M absolutely pooped the bed and lost to Appalachian State, I think that there are some real questions concerning the state of Texas football moving forward. Because what I think that this past weekend showed is that there can really only be one team in the state of Texas that will dominate and will reign over college football moving forward. But real quick, before we get into that, be sure to leave this video a like, also hit that subscribe button and turn on all your notifications so you never miss any of the videos that we drop, and be ready to comment. You probably have already commented if you have a strong opinion about this, but be ready to comment because I really do want to hear your thoughts about who is going to be running the state of Texas. Is it going to be UT or is it going to be TAMU? So the real reason that I'm bringing this video up is because Texas A&M, I believe, is going to be running into some serious issues once Texas joins the SEC. The set date for when Texas and Oklahoma are supposed to join the SEC is July 1st of 2025. And with that date ever approaching, Texas A&M has to establish themselves as the top team in Texas in the SEC. Because whether you agree with me or not, I honestly believe that the only reason why Texas A&M is consistently getting these great recruiting classes and is constantly being hyped is because they are the only team in the state of Texas that is in the SEC. You see, most of the top recruits have already figured out a long time ago that their chances of going to the NFL skyrocket if they play in the SEC. They're playing against the best competition. They have the best chance of going to a bowl game, and they also have the best chance of making it to the college football playoffs if they play for any of the teams in the SEC. I mean, an SEC team has been represented each and every single year of the college football playoffs. However, Texas A&M has now spent a little over a decade in the SEC, and they have yet to establish themselves as a powerhouse in the conference. Texas A&M's best season was their first season in the SEC, where they went 11-2 under Kevin Sumlin, and the next season that they had was the 2020 COVID season, where they went 9-1 under Jimbo Fisher. However, besides those two seasons, Texas A&M has consistently been an 8-5 to a 9-4 win team year in and year out, with their worst season being 7-6, which in the college football world, being a consistent 4-5 loss team, even if it is in the SEC, it is hard for me to put you up there with the elite of the elite as a 4-5 loss team consistently. Oh, but Marcus, UT's in the Big 12 and they're consistently trash. You are right. During the same time that Texas A&M has been in the SEC, Texas has honestly done worse in the Big 12. Their two best seasons were back in 2012, where they were 9-4 under Mac Brown, and then again in 2018, where they went 10-4 under Tom Herman. Every other year, Texas is pretty much a 500 team, give or take a couple of years. Which, if being a 4-5 loss team is not good enough to be in the SEC, then being a 5-6, maybe even 7 loss team is definitely not going to get it done. However, you see, you're forgetting one of the major parts that I brought up earlier in the conversation, and it is that Texas has not been able to recruit on the same level that Texas A&M has been in the state of Texas, because when it comes down to picking between UT and Texas A&M, I'd rather go to Texas A&M, because at least if I'm gonna be on a somewhat bad team, I'd rather be playing in the SEC so I have a better chance of going pro. However, even with Texas being in relative obscurity in the Big 12, they've still consistently put together solid recruiting classes year in and year out. Not as good as Texas A&M, but they're still in the mix. I mean, in this year's recruiting class, Texas has the second best recruiting class in the entire country, where Texas A&M, after having the literal greatest recruiting class of all time last year, currently are the 24th best recruiting class this year. Now, don't get me wrong, this recruiting class is not over yet. There's still a lot of kids who have to sign. However, that should be saying something. I think that the tides are starting to sway more in the favor of UT. And this brings me all the way back to my original point of what we saw this past weekend. If Texas A&M, after being in the SEC for over a decade and coming off of having the greatest recruiting class of, not just that Texas A&M has ever had, they literally had the greatest recruiting class of all time. They had 8 5-star recruits in one class. If after coming off of all that and getting all the hype this offseason and just expected to really step forward and be one of the top tier teams, not only in the SEC, but in the entire country, and then to lose to Appalachian State, not by a blowout, but by, nobody was able to even do anything during that entire game. And then for Texas, in the same exact week, after losing their star quarterback of Quinn Ewers and still being able to make it a game versus Alabama. Yes, Alabama played probably one of the worst games that they've ever played under Coach Saban. However, for Texas to show that they can hang with the elite of the elite without having that SEC boost in their recruiting classes, and then for Texas A&M to still be floundering a decade in, I think that once Texas officially joins the SEC, they get the boost of being another Texas team in the SEC. I think that Texas A&M might slide very hardly to the bottom of the SEC. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not completely oblivious. I know that the great recruiting class that Texas A&M brought in last year, they're all true freshmen, so they still haven't had the fullest of times to be able to develop and get integrated into the college football system. I'm not super sold on Max Johnson, but I think once Connor Weigman takes the reins, Texas A&M will finally have a quarterback. Texas A&M, you better keep your hands off my quarterback, Malachi Nelson. I'm telling y'all, keep your hands to yourself. But I think once Texas A&M has a real quarterback and all those 5-star and high-tier 4-star recruits start developing, I think that could really help give Texas A&M a last push. But I think if last year's recruiting class doesn't pan out for Texas A&M and Texas comes in and Coach Sharpe starts putting the pieces together, and the first year of Texas being in the SEC is Quinn Ewers' junior year, where he's really just absolutely balling out, and then the Arch Manning era is coming right behind that, I think it's going to be a hard sell for Texas A&M to be telling Texas kids, hey, come to Texas A&M, when the burnt orange, where most of those kids, maybe not the recruits, but their parents are like, oh, I remember going to UT games. I remember Texas being at the top of the college football world. Because while Texas A&M is a good team, they're not a blue blood like UT is. I think that if UT is able to get that recruiting boost from moving to the SEC, Coach Sark puts it together, these two quarterbacks that Texas is bringing in, and Arch Manning, and then obviously with Quinn Ewers being there right now, if all of that works together and Texas starts really making a push towards these top tier bowl games, while Texas A&M kind of stays more in the middle of the SEC, like I said, I think that Texas might be reigning at the top of the SEC with some of the other big dogs, and Texas A&M might start to slide pretty hard. But I want to hear from y'all because, hey, y'all can see I'm a USC fan. This is just what I've been observing. This is just kind of what I've been seeing, looking at it more from a recruiting standpoint and just kind of looking at what happened this past weekend. I think it's a nice little conversation to be bringing up, especially with Texas moving to the SEC fairly soon. So I want to hear from y'all. Do you guys think that once Texas moves to the SEC that it will be over for Texas A&M? Do you think that the two Texas teams can coincide in the SEC? Do you think that Texas A&M will still reign at the top? I want to hear from y'all. Be sure to comment that down below. Leave this video a like and also hit that subscribe button and turn on all your notifications. And with that being said, I love and appreciate all y'all. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.